This screen looks absolutely amazing. Hello and welcome to Chinballs Gaming. I am Scott and this is my Gameboy Advance SP. And as you can see, it's got a very broken screen. I've been wanting to replace this screen for a long time, however most replacement screens require cutting the case or buying a replacement shell. Then I came across this. This is the Hispeedido, I hope I got that name right, V5 3-inch IPS screen. And what interested me the most in this particular screen was the fact that it is a true drop-in replacement. No need to cut your original case, nor buy an aftermarket IPS compatible shell. It does come with a small wire that you can solder to the motherboard if you want to use the Game Boy's brightness button to bring up the on-screen display, which would control brightness, scanline effects and other colour modes, but I'm not going to do that for 4 good reasons. 1, I'd like to keep my motherboard original. 2, my soldering skills suck. 3, it didn't come with any instructions on how to do this, and I couldn't be bothered to look it up. And 4, well, I'll show you 4 later, so stick around till the end. So let's take this sucker apart. But first you'll need a small screwdriver to take off the battery cover. Mine was a PH00. You also need a tri-ring screwdriver. This is a typical Nintendo anti-tamper screwdriver, basically something that most folk wouldn't have, just to make it harder to get it in for no reason. So you just need to take out this one screw to take off the battery cover, and then you can take out the battery. Next up, there are 6 tri-ring screws here. The 4 in the corners are longer than the 2 in the middle, so please do make a note of where they came from. I like to put mine in some sort of order. It doesn't always work, but I like to stack them in sort of roughly where they came from the case itself. So I will be speeding parts of this video up, otherwise it's going to be very long and boring, but I'm pretty sure you know how to take out some screws. The bottom of the case will come off very easily. Be careful not to lose the small square bolt, which will probably fall out of the case. This is for the battery cover, and we'll of course need that later to secure the battery cover back on. There he is, the little chappy. There are now 3 more standard screws holding the motherboard in place, and then the motherboard is free to come out. Do be careful as the screen is still attached, although I guess it doesn't really matter because the screen is knackered, so it doesn't really matter if we break the ribbon cable, but it would be a shame if we broke the socket. So yeah, let's just say be careful. So gently lift up the motherboard and pull down the clips holding the ribbon cable in place, and voila, the motherboard is free. So flip over the Game Boy and open it up. The next screws are hidden underneath these 5 rubber pads. There's no real easy way to get these out. I used a small flat screwdriver. Be careful not to scratch the case like I did. Just try to get down the side and pop them out. The glue will still be sticky and we'll need them later. So just lay them safe with the glue facing upwards. So at this point I realised I probably should test the screen before I put it in, and it even says this on the instructions on the website where I bought it from. And basically if you install it and then there's a problem, then well, you're shit out of luck, it's your own fault, which is a bit crap, but I can understand why they do this. The ribbon cable is fragile and so is the screen. Not so fragile that they will just instantly break, but if you install them wrong or you apply the pressure wrong, then you could quite easily break them. So yeah, test it first, make sure it's all fine, and if there's a problem, send it back right now. Don't take off the protective cover, don't take off the adhesive strips, just send it back. Okay, so PSA over, and now we just need to take out the 5 tri-ring screws that are holding the screen in place. Just quickly fold down the Game Boy before you take the screen off, and there is one more little screw underneath the ribbon cable which needs to be removed. This is for the hinge, and it will make removing the screen much easier. And now once that is removed, you can simply lift it up and the screen will simply be left behind in the case. And there we go, one old broken screen. So if you didn't before, this is your final chance to test the screen works before we remove the cover, and once you are happy you can remove the protective film, and look at that, it even has a Game Boy Advance logo on it. So all we need to do now is take the new screen and drop it into place, and it should fit perfectly. Mine does at least. If yours doesn't, then maybe check again. So I've placed the old screen just to the right of me for reference, as we are going to need to curl the ribbon cable just like it so that it fits into the hinge. It isn't easy, and whatever you do, do not fold the ribbon cable, as this will probably be instant death for the screen. Feed the end of the ribbon through the small slit in the case and then screw the hinge cover back on, and that will keep it in place. The back of the new screen does have some adhesive strips, but I didn't feel it necessary to secure it, so I didn't bother taking them off, but that's up to you if you want to do that. So now it's basically do everything in reverse. Put these 5 screws back in the screen first, and then we can take it from there. Okay, so I made a bit of a mess with the recording of putting this back together, but basically you will need to attach the ribbon cable back into the motherboard, which is easier said than done. I then used a small screwdriver to push each side of a lock into place. Then carefully, with the motherboard still vertical, put all the buttons and the button membranes back into place and layer the motherboard on top. And then screw in the 3 motherboard screws. So like I say, I made a bit of a mess recording this. The only thing to look out for is that little bolt that I mentioned earlier goes in here and not here, otherwise the case won't close. Okay, let's assume you've got everything back together. So how does the new screen compare? Here are my 2 other Gameboy Advance SPs. They are both model AGS-001s. They do, however, seem to be fitted with different screens. I'm not sure if this is because one is the UK version and the other is the Japanese version, or if one of them already had the screen replaced. But as you can hopefully see, one of them has very clear horizontal scan lines and maybe a slight flicker. The other has some less obvious vertical scan lines with a much more stable image. The new screen we've just replaced, however, is quite honestly superior in every way. The image clarity is absolutely amazing, the colours pop and the brightness is fantastic. Looking at the other 2 screens, I just honestly amazed. It looks beautiful. So earlier I said I wasn't going to attach this wire for 4 good reasons. And that is because we don't need this button at all. And the reason being is the screen actually has a touch sensor, and you can do, if you tap over this side, you can change the brightness, which has 15 levels, I think. And if we hold around here in the middle, we can change color modes from black and white to some other effects. Scanline filters, which again, it's on this side where the brightness is, and if you hold this down, then you can change from horizontal scan lines to vertical scan lines to square scan lines or none. So yeah, no need to attach the wire at all. The button won't work, but we don't need the buttons because we've got 2 buttons here now to control different things, and that is amazing. So you might be asking, how much did this screen cost? Well, it's not cheap. It cost me $65 Euro pounds, which sounds a lot, but it was a broken Game Boy anyway. Screens aren't cheap, unfortunately, and the improvement is massive. And there are cheaper alternatives, but the cheaper alternatives all need you to cut the case or buy a new case. And to buy a new case, they're around $20 Euro pounds anyway. So in effect, I have saved money by buying this screen because I can just fit it into my existing case. And like I say, it looks absolutely glorious. I am very happy I've done this. In fact, I'll find my other screen. So with the scanline filters on and the brightness set to 2, it looks about the same as an original with full brightness. And like I say, this can now go all the way up to 15 brightness. Not that 15 is a number that you can compare with. If you've already modified your Game Boy with a different screen, why not let me know in the comments below? I'd be interested to know how other Game Boys and maybe Game Gears look. So if you've got any recommendations for screens, like I say, let me know. So that's about it from me. I did buy this myself, so probably no links below. There might be if I've changed my mind. I never sort out any affiliate links and things for these kind of things, so maybe I have, but drop us a like or something, maybe.